Egypt, situated along the Nile River, is famous for its amazing pyramids and powerful pharaohs from ancient times. But behind the beauty of Egypt's ancient wonders, the country's economy is facing big problems. Egypt is struggling with high inflation, a lot of debt, high unemployment, and not enough foreign money reserves. If nothing is done to fix these issues, the Egyptian economy completely collapses. Here is why Egypt's economy is on the brink of collapse. Egypt's modern economic history can be traced back to the 1970s, when the country began shifting from a centrally planned economy to a more market-oriented one. The open-door policy, Infitah, introduced by President Anwar Sadat, aimed to attract foreign investment and stimulate economic growth. However, the transition was not smooth, and the economy faced challenges such as public sector inefficiency and a growing external debt. In the 1990s, Egypt implemented structural adjustment programs with the support of the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and the World Bank. These reforms included privatization of state-owned enterprises, tax reforms, and liberalization of trade and investment regulations. The goal was to stabilize the economy, reduce fiscal deficits, and promote private sector development. Going forward, the early 2000s saw a period of economic growth at an average of 3% per year, driven by increased revenues from tourism, Suez Canal tolls, and remittances from Egyptians working abroad. The government also focused on diversifying the economy and developing sectors such as energy, telecommunications, and manufacturing. However, the global financial crisis of 2008 had a significant impact on Egypt's economy, leading to a slowdown in growth and investment. The GDP growth slowed down to 4.7% in 2008-2009, compared to 7.2% in 2007-2008. The political upheaval of the 2011 Arab Spring also further exacerbated economic instability, causing a decline in tourism and foreign investment. In recent years, Egypt has embarked on a new wave of economic reforms, which include subsidy cuts, tax increases, and currency devaluation to secure a $12 billion loan from the IMF in 2016. At the time, Egypt's budget deficit was reported to be 12.2% of the GDP, amounting to 339.5 billion Egyptian pounds, so they desperately needed that loan. While these efforts yielded some positive results, such as increased foreign investment and economic growth, the impact was mixed with inflation skyrocketing and the cost of living increasing significantly. Despite a setback, the measures led to a period of economic stabilization and growth. In 2019, Egypt's GDP growth was 5.6%, one of the highest in the region. This revival was mainly driven by the export of goods and services. And then there was the global COVID pandemic in 2020. Between 2020 and December 2023, the Egyptian economy faced various challenges. Egypt managed to maintain a GDP growth of 3.55% in 2020, one of the few emerging market countries to do so. However, Egypt couldn't sustain this growth. By 2023, Egypt's debt to GDP ratio had significantly increased, from 69.6% in 2010 to as high as 92.7% in 2023. This high debt level put pressure on government finances. Inflation surged to 21.3% by December 2023, driven by currency devaluation, rising global commodity prices, and supply chain disruptions. The value of the Egyptian pound declined significantly, exacerbating inflation and reducing purchasing power for ordinary Egyptians. Additionally, unemployment remains a major issue, especially among young people. At the end of 2023, the unemployment rate was 7.1%, with youth unemployment at 15.6%. This high unemployment rate among young people has led to increased social unrest and frustration. The bad situation in the country doesn't stop there, as foreign currency reserves have dwindled, creating a protracted shortage that hampers the country's ability to pay for imports and service its external debt. This shortage has put additional pressure on the Egyptian pound and forced the government to implement austerity measures, affecting public services and social programs. Despite efforts to stabilize the economy through subsidy cuts, tax increases, and structural reforms aimed at attracting foreign investment and diversifying the economy, these measures usually do not reach the lower and middle classes effectively. The benefits of growth have been concentrated among a small segment of the population, leading to growing income inequality and social unrest. As of 2024 now, Egypt's economy is still facing severe challenges, notably a crippling foreign currency shortage and dwindling foreign reserves. These factors have led to immense pressure on the Egyptian pound and rampant inflation, threatening the country's stability and prosperity. Furthermore, political instability, corruption, and mismanagement of resources have consistently hampered the effective implementation of economic policies in Egypt. While historical events like the Camp David Accords in 1978 marked significant shifts, their direct impact on the current economic situation in 2024 is more nuanced. The Camp David Accords led to a peace treaty between Egypt and Israel, making Egypt the first Arab country to officially recognize Israel. This move, while a significant step toward regional peace, came with economic consequences. Post-Accords, Egypt faced economic isolation from much of the Arab world, which impacted trade and investment and resulted in a reduction of financial aid from Arab countries. This historical context is important because it laid the groundwork for the economic challenges Egypt faces today. The reduction in regional support forced Egypt to rely more heavily on Western financial aid and loans, which increased its external debt. This led to a cycle of borrowing and debt accumulation. Egypt is currently on the brink of collapse. As indicated, the country is grappling with a debt-to-GDP ratio of 92.7%, high inflation, and severe shortages of foreign currency. Due to corruption, mismanagement, and political instability, solutions remain elusive. Instead of working to resolve the issues, the problems seem to be getting worse. I don't want to deny that attempts have been made to address these economic challenges. The Egyptian government has implemented a series of austerity measures and economic reforms. These measures include reducing subsidies, attracting foreign investment, and diversifying the economy beyond its traditional reliance on tourism and remittances. However, despite these efforts, the economic situation remains dire. For instance, while there has been some economic growth, the benefits have not been evenly distributed, leading to increased income inequality. As a result, poverty rates have risen, with approximately 27.9% of Egyptians living below the national poverty line in 2022. This indicates that while the government's reforms may have stimulated certain sectors, they have not provided broad-based economic relief for the majority of the population. Moreover, these reforms have not sufficiently mitigated high inflation or the foreign currency shortage, which continue to undermine economic stability. The persistence of these issues highlights the need for a more comprehensive and inclusive approach to economic reform. Connecting this to the things I have said earlier, it's clear that Egypt's economic challenges are deeply rooted and complex, requiring solutions that go beyond superficial policy changes. Egypt's current economic approach combines elements of both state-led development and market-oriented reforms. However, this model seems ineffective in addressing the various challenges confronting the nation. To address the looming economic crisis, Egypt must explore alternative policies that target the root causes of its economic struggles. This could involve a comprehensive restructuring of the economic framework, emphasizing the diversification of its economy. When I say diversification, I mean they should reduce reliance on a few key sectors like tourism and remittances and developing a broader range of industries such as manufacturing, technology, agriculture, and renewable energy. Looking ahead, economic forecasts for Egypt paint a challenging picture. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, projects that Egypt's GDP growth will slow to around 3% in 2024, significantly lower than pre-pandemic levels. Unemployment, particularly among the youth, is anticipated to stay high, exacerbating social unrest and economic instability. Additionally, Egypt's external debt is projected to increase, reaching approximately $180 billion by 2025, putting further strain on the country's finances. These figures show how urgent the situation is and why Egypt needs to act fast. The current economic problems are hitting the people of Egypt very hard. When people can't find jobs and prices keep going up, it makes life harder, especially for those who don't have much money. It also means it's harder for kids to go to school or see a doctor because their families might not have enough money for those things. The economic forecast for the future I shared earlier shows how serious the situation is. As I mentioned earlier, Egypt has been in tough spots like this before. The current economic situation in Egypt shows striking similarities to the late 1980s and early 1990s, when the country underwent a series of economic reforms led by the International Monetary Fund, IMF. They tried to fix things then too, But it didn't work out well in the long run because of problems like political instability and a failure to address systemic issues such as corruption and cronyism. If Egypt does not take decisive action to address its current economic challenges, the future looks bleak. Here are some potential consequences if nothing changes: worsening inflation, rising unemployment, increased poverty, debt crisis, economic isolation, and political instability. Hopefully things get better.